Okay, so welcome along to week 4 of the semester. Some really good work so far. We've looked at an overview of health and physical education. Week 2, we've looked at lesson planning. Week 3, we've looked at how to manage the classroom to put that planning into practice. And this week, we're going to be looking at some inclusive strategies to ensure that all groups within your classroom can participate and engage in physical education. And once again, sorry for the slight delay this week due to illness, but today we'll be going through some very important strategies that a lot of you mentioned in the discussion board as a key area that you want to learn about. So first of all, what is it? And it's teaching in ways that don't exclude, obviously, by including students, whether that be accidentally or intentionally. So looking at a range of strategies today, from opportunities to learn, and every child has the fundamental right when they come to schools and within your health and phys ed classes to be able to learn. So that's something really vital for all classrooms, no matter, not just health and phys ed, but across a range of disciplines as well. So some groups that can be excluded or marginalised, and just looking a few to consider. This is called a diversity wheel. So there could be things such as appearance, ethnicity, race. Could be different ages within your classroom. For instance, you could be merging groups for that week. You could be having the grade 5s and 3s or something like that, and that's something you need to include. For gender, there might be different gender-specific sports that. So, for instance, a lot of girls within your class might like to play netball. A lot of the boys are like the Aussie rules. So, how are you going to find that balance so that their interests are accommodated for? There can be sexual orientation, physical abilities, which we'll look at some areas today to help assist with that. Even personality types. We've got quiet and loud students, geographic location, educational backgrounds, and religion and spirituality, and that could also influence some of the content that you're teaching. So we'll have a look at some of these, and you can go further and look at some of these other areas around that diversity wheel as well, but it's a really good way to just consider the diversity within your classroom. So a couple of little background slides here. This was from the Gonski review in 2010, and this shows some of the areas of disadvantaged students are very remote. You can see that they're vulnerable in some of the learning domains, in multiple learning domains compared to the major cities there. And that could be related to resources and equipment being available and those sort of things, so something to consider. You've also got the Indigenous side of things as well, which is also a vulnerable group. And you can see how parental background can also have an influence on the learning outcomes within your schools and classrooms. The bachelor degree there, right up the top of achievement, and then you've got parental achievement at a year 11 level there. So some important considerations just to really show you that some of the things that might influence the learning practices and diversity from the backgrounds and influences within your classroom. So to actually be able to include students within your health and phys ed class, you need to know what excludes them, and some of the things that actually exclude your students will be conveying disrespect, being unfair, or lacking confidence in them. Number 2 here, disregarding their background. So just like we looked at with lesson planning, we really need to identify and know your students' backgrounds, and are they going through any life events and those sort of things? Are they prepared adequately for the class that you're delivering? Interacting with only a subset of students, and I heard a couple of examples over the first few weeks where this has been common practice, especially in physical education, and I think we can all relate to this, especially when I went through secondary school, there was a teacher that really enjoyed cricket, and he often preferred interacting with the cricket guys within the PE class. So that's a way to exclude others that aren't as interested in a certain aspect or education thing. Number 4 here, teaching ways that favour particular backgrounds. And number 5, teaching in ways that favour particular approaches to learning. And that really sort of reflects, for instance, we've looked a little bit about learning styles. So if you've got an auditory or a visual preferred learning style, or whether it be hands-on, and you're teaching in that way, and the students that don't favour that learning style may be excluded. So that's something to also consider there. And so in contrast to that, some of the keys to being inclusive within your teaching practices, being aware of obviously your students' backgrounds, their motivation, their interests, really knowing what your students learn, knowing how your students are and how they learn, which is one of the 8 source standards, being flexible within your class and being able to accommodate for this range of diversity, using your imagination and innovation to be able to accommodate, thinking about the equipment available, the positioning of the class, how you're going to actually group certain students and supervise. Those sort of things are really important. Being patient if there are some different abilities and stuff like that within your class, and not losing patience with those that aren't patient, also with those that have special needs. And then the last 2 there, 6 and 7, communication and common sense, and just being able to really communicate to the class is really important. If communications aren't able to be delivered, then some of these aspects can fall out the window as well. And some strategies. So planning ahead, and we went through that in week 2. And planning is really fundamental to all of these processes, because then you're prepared to accommodate and really scaffold and include students. Setting expectations early, inviting participation constantly, seeking feedback, of course. Are your strategies working to include them in the classroom? And honouring diversity, and that's really setting a culture within your classes that diversity is valued and that everyone is valued and included. Also, we'll be looking at a few of these strategies, so developing a broad repertoire of inclusive strategies, setting the stage for potentially sensitive material, and this could be a strong one for religious considerations. So really outlining whether to be parents or the students in advance of some of the material that might be delivered. So you'll have a unit plan often where you'll be able to check some of these aspects. Respond promptly to discriminatory remarks, and that goes back to the values within your classroom, so really creating that culture. If there are discriminatory remarks, then really getting onto that, and this is where you could be applying that classroom management plan that we went over in week 3. Don't ask a student to represent the entire category of people, so that's not stereotyping a certain group. For instance, you might have an Indian boy in your class, and suddenly, because a lot of Indians are very passionate about cricket, it's not to say that this particular child will be really passionate about cricket and getting them to do demonstrations and all those type of things. Just